Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I will be sharing with you on using factoring to find the zeros of polynomial functions. But before we get started, I want to encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Like the video, share the link with your friends, and please also click on the notification button. Thank you very much for your support. All right, let's get started. Over here, we have a couple of questions, and we shall be looking at them one after the other. All right, let's move on. Question 1. Find the x-intercepts of the function f of x equal to x to the sixth power negative 3x cubed plus 2x squared. To solve this problem, first we have to change f of x to y, and that will become y equal to x to the sixth power minus 3x cubed plus 2x squared. Next, we have to find the GCF of these three terms. And I'm sure you are familiar with how to find the GCF of terms, of different terms. So the GCF of these three terms would be x squared. So we have to divide each of the terms by the GCF. And so this will become x to the sixth power divided by x squared minus 3x cubed divided by x squared plus 2x squared divided by x squared. So now this will be x squared, x to the sixth power divided by x squared. That's going to give you x to the fourth power minus 3x cubed divided by x squared. That's going to give you 3x, and 2x squared divided by x squared. That's going to give you 2, just 2. All right. So now, if you look at the content of the parentheses, it can be factored further using the quadratic method. So to factor this, we are going to find two factors of plus 2 such that their sum should be negative 3. And these two factors would be negative 2 and negative 1. So negative 2 times negative 1 is going to give you plus 2, and the sum of negative 2 and negative 1 is negative 3. So once you have found these two factors of plus 2, next you have to split x to the fourth power into x squared and place one here. This is now x squared, and place the second one over here, x squared, and then separate them with parentheses like this. Okay, so now we have the factors of these three terms. Now you can also look at these factors that we already have, check them if they can be factored any further. Okay, x to the x squared negative 2 cannot be factored any further because 2 is not a squared number. But x squared negative 1 can be factored further because you can see this one as 1 squared. Okay, if you are familiar with difference of squares, you know that just recall that if you have a squared minus b squared, this simply gives you the sum of a and b and the difference of a and b. So if we apply this concept to x squared minus 1 squared, then we are going to have x squared, s squared negative 2, and this will become x plus 1, x negative 1. Good. So y is equals to all of these. So now To find the x-intercept, or the x-intercept occur at when y is equals to 0. Therefore, we are going to change y to 0, and now we're going to have 0 is equals to x squared, s squared negative 2, x plus 1, x negative 1. At this point, we are going to set each of these factors to 0. In order to find the zeros of the function, we are going to set them to 0. So x squared will be equals to 0. If you take the square root of both sides, then x will be equals to plus or minus the square root of 0, and that of course is 0. So x is equals to 0. Next, we have x squared negative 2 is equals to 0. So now add 2 to both sides, and plus 2, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So you just cancel them from here, and you're going to have x squared is equals to 0 plus 2, and that's going to give you 2. So you can simply take the square root of both sides. So x will be equals to plus or minus the square root of 2, which of course would be plus the square root of 2 and negative square root of 2. So you have two answers over here. So next we have x plus 1 equals to 0. So we are going to write this in terms of x by just subtracting 1 from both sides. So plus 1 minus 1 is 0. So strike it from here. And now you have x is equals to 0, negative 1, and that gives you negative 1. And lastly, we have x minus 1 is equals to 0. So we are writing this in terms of x. So we can simply add 1 to both sides. Add 1 to both sides. And when you do that, negative 1 plus 1 will be 0. So you can simply strike it from here. And you now have x is equals to 0 plus 1, and that gives you 1. So all of these are the zeros of the function. These are the zeros of the function. And you can also call them the roots of the function. Now, we have to write the x-intercept. X-intercept. So the x-intercept occur in the first place when x is 0, y will be equals to 0. So this is the first x-intercept. And then the second, when x is plus the square root of 2, y will be equals to 0. Next, when x is at negative the square root of 2, y will be equals to 0. Next, when x is at negative 1, y is equals to 0. And lastly, when x is equals to 1, y is equals to 0. So these are the x-intercepts of the function. I hope this is helpful and is understandable. All right, let's quickly move on to the next one. Question 2. Find the x-intercepts of the function f of x equal x cubed, negative 5x squared, negative x plus 5. Now, first we have to change f of x to y, and the function becomes y equal x cubed negative 5 x squared negative x plus 5. Secondly, if you have 4 terms in a function, 4 terms, the best way to factor this is to do that in twos. So just take them in twos, and now you can find the GCF of x cubed and negative 5x squared. And the GCF of x cubed and negative 5x squared is x squared. So now divide each of them by the GCF. So just open the parentheses. This will be x cubed over x squared minus 5x squared over x squared. And also you can simply find the GCF of negative x and plus 5, and that of course would be negative 1. So we have negative 1, and also we need to divide each of the terms by negative 1. So negative x divided by negative 1 plus 5 divided by negative 1, and then close parenthesis. So now x squared is equals to x squared parenthesis. So now if you divide x cubed by x squared, that's going to give you just x. And negative 5x squared divided by x squared is going to give you negative 5. Now simply bring this negative 1 over here. And if you divide negative x divided by negative 1, that's going to give you just x. And plus 5 divided by negative 1, that is negative 5. Good. So now look at the content of the parenthesis. You can see that it's the same. So what you need to do, just simply open the parentheses and just write them here. Good. Now if you strike this from here and also strike this from here, what do you have left? You have x squared negative 1. Simply put them in parentheses. X squared negative 1. So y is equals to this. Now look at these two factors. Can they be factored further? X negative 5 cannot be factored anymore, but x squared negative 1 can be factored again, because 1 is a squared number. 1 is a squared number, so you can simply see this one as 1 squared. So if you recall that if you have a squared minus b squared, this will be equals to a plus b, a minus b. Then this of course would be x negative 5, x plus 1, and x negative 1. All right. So now y is equals to x negative 5, x plus 1, x negative 1. So when the x-intercept is at when y is 0. So we are going to change y to 0. The x-intercept is at when y is 0. So change this to 0, and this will be equals to x negative 5 x plus 1 x negative 1. Good. So now to find the zeros of this function, we are going to set each of the factors to 0. So x negative 5 is equals to 0. Now write this in terms of x. To do that, add 5 to both sides. And you know, negative 5 plus 5 is 0, so this can be cancelled. And x will be equals to 0 plus 5, and that is 5. Also, x plus 1, which is this, is equals to 0. Write this in terms of x by subtracting 1 from both sides. So if you do that now, plus 1 minus 1 we cancel out, and x will be equals to 0, negative 1, and that's going to give you negative 1. But this also, x negative 1 will be equals to 0, and write this in terms of x by adding 1 to both sides, and negative 1 plus 1 is 0, so you can simply strike them from here, and x will be equals to 0 plus 1, and that is 1. Now, these are the zeros of the function, and you can also call them as the root of the function. Now, to write them, or to write the x-intercept of the function, when x is equals to 5, y will be 0. When x is equal to -1, y is 0. And when x is equals to 1, when x is equals to 1, y is 0. So these are the x-intercept of the function. I hope this makes some sense. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Question 3. Find the y and x-intercept of the function below. Now, to solve this problem, first we have to change g of x to y. And so this will become y equals to x negative 2 squared 2x plus 3. Now, to find the y-intercept, we have to change x to 0. So y will be equals to 0 negative 2 squared 2 times 0 plus 3, and this will become 0 minus 2 is negative 2, so we become negative 2 squared, 2 times 0 is 0, and then 0 plus 3 is 3. So this will be equals to negative 2 squared is 4, so we have 4 times 3, and this will be equals to 12. So y is equals to 12. So the y-intercept would be 0 and 12. So this is the y-intercept. Now, let's also find the x-intercept. The x-intercept is at when y equals to 0. So we are going to write the function as 0 equals to x negative 2 squared 2x plus 3. So now this function is already in the factored form. So we can set each of these factors to 0. Set each of them to 0. So when we do that, we're going to have x negative 2 squared is equals to 0. Now take the square root of both sides. So x negative 2 will be equals to plus or minus the square root of 0. And of course, that will be equals to 0. So x negative 2 is equals to 0. Now we can simply add 2 to both sides in order to write this equation in terms of x. So plus 2 plus 2. So negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So you can simply cancel this from here. And x will be equals to 0 plus 2. And of course, that is 2. Next, we have to write 2x, which is this 2x plus 3 is equals to 0. So we can subtract 3x from both sides. And if you do that, plus 3 minus 3 is 0. And 2x will be equals to 0, negative 3, and that gives you negative 3. So now divide both sides by 2. And 2 is going to cancel 2 from here. And x will be equals to negative 3 over 2. So these are the zeros of the function or the roots of the function. Now the x-intercept. The x-intercept is at 2 and 0, -3 over 2 and 0. So these are the x-intercepts. I hope this makes some sense. All right, let's move on to the next one. Question 4. Find the x-intercepts of h of x equal x cubed plus 4x squared plus x negative 6. Now, if you look at this function very well, you will discover that it is impossible to factor this function directly. Okay, now let's try. Since we have 4 terms over here, we can factor these. The best way to factor these is to group them in twos. And the GCF of x cubed and 4x squared is x squared. So this would be, just write your GCF here and divide each term by the GCF. And also find the GCF of the next 2 terms. The GCF of x and negative 6 will be plus 1. And so you can as well divide each of them by 1. Good. So this would be, of course, you have to change h of x to y. So this is y is equals to this. So now, x cubed divided by x squared will give you x. And 4x squared divided by x will give you 4. X divided by 1 is x, and negative 6 divided by 1 is negative 6. So you discovered now that the content of the parentheses is different. There are times that you will even need to switch the terms if you can still have the same value in the parentheses. So h of x now, if you decide to switch, this is x to the 3rd power. So if you switch this x closer, like plus x, and you switch plus 4x squared, negative 6 over here, if you factor this, you still realize that it's not going to work. So you can write it now as y is equals to x to the 3rd power plus x plus 4x squared negative 6. So you group them now and you find the GCF. The GCF of x cubed and x is x. So x cubed divided by x and x divided by x. And the GCF of 4x squared negative 6 is 2. So you have plus 2 and 4x squared divided by 2, negative 6 divided by the GCF. So this would be x cubed divided by x is x squared, and x divided by x is 1. So you bring down this, and 4x squared divided by 2 is 2x squared, and negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So you can see that the content of the parentheses are still different. So when you have this kind of problem, all you have to do is to engage your graphing calculator. All right, so let's engage that option in dealing with this question. All right, now we have the graphing calculator, and all you have to do is to enter the values of the function. So we have x cubed plus 4x squared plus x minus 6, and after typing in the values you can simply enter, and you can see the function is already graphed. Okay, so all you have to do now, you need to click on this button, and after that you can identify the value of the x-intercept or the zeros of the function. So these are the points. So now let's click on that and just bring it closer to the line and take it straight down. And then you can see that this is 1. So it means that x is at 1. And also, if you move it, it's just moving around the graph and go to the point where you have the line. You can see this is 2. This is -2. You can see that on the screen, -2. And you move down, you get to the point where the line intercepts. Okay, -3. You can see that on the screen. So with this, you can now state that the zeros will be x equals to -3, x is equal to -2, and x is equals to 1. So these are the zeros or the roots of the function. And the x-intercepts are -3, 0, -2, 0, and 1 and 0. So these are the x-intercepts. I hope this makes some sense. So this is all we'll be able to take for today. So if you find this video useful, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like the video, share the link with your friends, and also click on the notification button. Thank you very much for your support. I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next video. Bye-bye.